Hello, precious humans. I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of December 12th through the 20th. And we have quite a bit of planetary movement changes happening. And even though I am recording this on the 11th, which is a powerful day, we're going to be feeling the energy of what today, this Venus-Pluto canoodling that is happening. We're going to be feeling it throughout the entire months, not just one, December, January, even into February, because Venus is going to station in retrograde on the 19th. I'll talk about that. And so she is spending her 40 days and 40 nights doing this retrograde pattern in the sign of Capricorn. And that means that she's also canoodling, like I say, with Pluto, the power planet. And this is making a beautiful aspect as well to Uranus. So there could be some pleasant surprises that allow us to be able to look at the things of our past that have to do with relationships, that have to do with pleasure, have to do with our finances, our values. And this can also be a chance for us to revisit places in which maybe we felt powerless in the past, because Pluto deals with the force, it deals with power, hidden power very often, and it also deals with abuse and taboo things as well. And so when you've got Venus canoodling here with Pluto, there could be conversations or people in your life or subject matters that are a little off the beaten path, maybe taboo, things that you just don't talk about. Maybe there's a lot of private things that are happening behind the scenes. And so during this time, think about this with the sign of Capricorn. It is being expressed. The planet is the character, and the sign is the expression that the character is using, the clothing, if you will. And in Capricorn, we're working with places in which we have either felt like we haven't achieved something, maybe we haven't accomplished or had a more mature approach to it. Maybe there's a seriousness to it. And we can find ourselves attracted to those who are ready to take relationship or finances or what we value very seriously. This is a time as well where there's a lot of make and break. We're coming off of an eclipse as well. So we just had a new moon eclipse in Sagittarius a week before. And so we're still going to be in that energy field as well, where a lot of truth is being told. A lot of things are coming up and out that we can't prepare for. The other thing with this Venus-Pluto canoodling that I feel is influencing us as human beings is that illnesses are being processed or expressed through the body. And I say that because we are attracting to us opportunities where we have to surrender. That's Pluto. We surrender to allowing, open to receive, letting others take care of us. I'm speaking to the independent me do it spirits that are watching this video. If you're somebody who is very open to receive already and you like being taken care of and all of that, good for you. This gives you an opportunity maybe to be as generous with another as they are with you. Now, the other side, the shadow side to this Venus-Pluto canoodling is that we can look at ways in which manipulation can happen. So if we're not getting what we want, we start manipulating the situation or the person. And that, I can tell you, has an expiration date. Speaking of expiration dates, we're going to be looking at relationships in particular. And if there are new relationships that are starting during this Venus retrograde, they most likely won't have a lot of traction. I'm not saying that's impossible, but what I can tell you is that there's a lot of things that are hidden or things that just aren't revealed except over time. And that when Venus does go direct, again in January, as well as when she gets out of shadow, some things are going to reveal that maybe weren't true or you just didn't know. And you sit there and you go, why was this hidden from me? Venus, Pluto, canoodling, it's going to happen again on Christmas evening and onto the 26th. So pay attention to these themes that are showing up right now. And what this can bring is great healing. If we're willing to walk through this, if we're able to, well, I'll use a personal example because it's one thing for me to talk a lot of astrology for those of you who aren't familiar with the language, but I want to make it relatable. I recently had a conversation with somebody that I care very deeply for. And the I keep saying this, when the relationship is more important than the subject matter, then you work through whatever that subject matter is. And I reached out to this individual a week ago and I said, I love you and I'm not going anywhere. How do we bridge this gap that's between us? And I took over dinner and we sat down and we talked through it, and there was tears and there was hugs and there was this wonderful opportunity to be able to meet each other exactly where we're at, which is we're perfectly imperfect humans, and none of us are doing this thing called life in the most perfect way, but we are doing it in our way. And that comes back to, can I line up with this? Is this person or this relationship more important than what has occurred? And so there's a lot of forgiveness and understanding, and there's boundaries also that have to be set and communicated. And so those are the things that this Venus-Pluto theme is bringing out for us. And the reason that I offer this when we're working with the sign of Capricorn is Capricorn shadow is the user and abuser. And so what we're working with is being able to use, but it's reciprocal, and it's not stepping on the back of another person to raise ourselves up. It's leaning in and it's saying, hey, I'm going to climb this mountain. I'm going to achieve this goal. I'm going to have these good things in my life so that I can generously share with you and with others who may be in need. And it may be that I reach down and I grab the hand and I pull that person up with me and we celebrate in that moment. The other thing I will say with this Venus retrograde time is it gives us a chance to slow down in our relationships. Very often we get so forward thinking and we want to basically pounce on our food, if you will, wrestle it to the ground and go, okay, now I have this relationship. We're being asked and forced to really surrender to the process. And I'm sorry to say, you cannot speed this up. You can only create a lot of damage along the way, messes to be made, misunderstandings that can happen. And so what I offer is, if we can just allow ourselves to stay present in the moment, tap into our own inner truth, stay in your body, and just allow things to unfold. And if there is a misunderstanding, if there's a disconnect, then give yourself permission to walk through the fire. You're not going to get burned. Okay. Mars enters Sagittarius, speaking of fire, the fire sign of Sagittarius on the 13th. And with Mars entering Sagittarius, we're going to be inspired to widen our horizons, broaden our minds, have greater conversations, competitions. We may be really motivated to forward think, to look at this bigger picture. It's a great complement to the Capricorn energy that we're in, because it lets us set our sights on what is it that I really want to manifest in the next year, and how do I make this happen in a way that I didn't see before. There's a lot more possibilities that can show up. We start having conversations and explorations about different options that maybe weren't there before. It's a great problem solving energy that we can work with. And it comes right at the beginning of a full moon that is going to be happening on the 19th as well. I'll get to that in a second, but Mercury will enter Capricorn just a couple of hours after Mars enters Sagittarius on the 13th. So now we've got the planet of communication and connection and learning and how we organize information and travel, leaving the sign of Sagittarius and moving into serious achievement-oriented, plotting, calculating, planning Capricorn. And what this can do is it can have us feeling more serious about our decisions. Maybe we're reflecting a little bit more on, is this relationship or is this situation in alignment with the bigger picture, with where I see myself in the future? It may help us organize ourselves better and manage our day-to-day routine. So if you felt like you were a little scattered or that things were sort of all over the place, this is a great energy for bringing back more of that structure. We also have a tendency to think more and speak less. So it can bode well for the conversations that need to be had, but at the same time, it may also prevent us from speaking our truth or saying things that we need to say when it's appropriate. Something I just want to point out with the energy overall for December, and especially with all the Capricorn energy, Venus, Pluto. We're going to be facing fears around relationships. We're going to be facing our fears around finances and maybe even values where we've compromised them or where we need to reset them. And a lot of that comes because we haven't learned to fully trust ourselves. And this is what the energy is inviting us to do. And with Mercury entering Capricorn, we can have this ability to sit quietly for just a little bit, to appreciate the silence. There's a lot of noise in silence. And in that noise, we can allow ourselves to receive information that may help us choose words carefully so that we're not harming another, so that we can communicate our boundaries, so that we can say, you know what, this relationship is no longer serving me, or this is what I need in order to be effective in my life. And so in doing so, I need to sit down with my boss, or I need to sit down with my lover, or I need to sit down with, you know, my friend and really talk through what is it, where I'm at now, and where do I see myself going. There's a lot of mental discipline that will come in. One of the other things that I will say is a trigger point that many of us may deal with during the next couple months with Venus here, and this is the shadow side. Jealousy, yeah, envy, they go sort of hand in hand, resentment, manipulation, control. All of those things are going to be coming up in various ways for us to work with. We may witness it in another. We may find ourselves feeling these things, but remember that our emotions are here to be emoted and that they invite deeper connection if we're willing to stay the course, if we're willing to have those more difficult conversations. Really, I offer this. The greatest fear that we often have with conversation is the anticipation of it. Once we're in it, if we can stay in it and stay with it, we find that the information and the connection and all of that is not at all as bad as we thought it was. Full moon in Gemini, 18th, 19th. This full moon culminates a cycle that began with the new moon solar eclipse in Gemini. So back in June, think back then. And it brings to light information and facts and data that wasn't available before. And so this is going to energize our minds, inspire us to learn, inspire us to understand this new reality that we're trying to come in. There's new ideas. So if you feel stuck, if you're like, I don't have an answer, I'm not even sure what this is, we'll work with relationship, because that's something that we're always working with. If you're in a relationship dynamic and you're not quite sure what's happening, this full moon could have a revelation. It could have a declaration. It could have new ideas. It could also, I will say this for those who are single and it's the holidays and it's hard during the holidays to be alone and you want that relationship. And maybe you've mingled and you went to Christmas parties or you let a friend set you up and it's like, oh no, Venus is retrograding, and she does retrograde at this full moon day on the 19th. And it's like, oh no, do I start a new relationship because Jamie and others have said, don't do it during a retrograde? Do not allow the planets to dictate what you feel is true for you and what is right for you. You have your own inner wisdom. You know what's best for you. So I say this, if you are starting a relationship during this during this Venus retrograde time, give yourself a lot of space and grace to go, there is a lot I don't know about this person. There's a lot maybe they don't know about me. Let's just take our time. Let's just be present in the moment. Let's not even talk about, at least not in a concrete way, what our future looks like together until Venus makes her move out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, and that will happen at the end of February into March. And when that happens, it will allow you to now have greater conversation. So around what the future can look like. But for now, just be present in the moment, be in the body, look at the relationship as an opportunity to learn more about yourself. It's very internal. There's a lot of personal work that happens during a Venus retrograde, during any retrograding planet. And Mercury does retrograde at the end of January into February. So we've also got that beautiful planet, which we know retrogrades 3, sometimes 4 times a year, just depends on the year, but we're used to it, right? And so it invites us to get internal. Also, keep in mind that when a planet is retrograde, a lot of the past comes back for finalization. So this is a good time to wrap up any fears, any insecurities, any issues that you may have had around relationships or a financial situation. If you've been waiting for a job offer or you're waiting to leave a job, this is a good time to do it. So, especially at this full moon, because while this full moon takes place, Venus is canoodling with Pluto and stationing retrograde. So it adds a very Scorpio-like energy to it. And that marks the beginning of transformation and how we experience our relationships, our relationship with everything. And this alignment will happen again, like I mentioned, December 25th, 26th, depending on where we are. And so we're looking at patterns. We're looking at deep healing. Again, more of the past coming back to be able to say, how can I approach this differently? Because we are not the same people we once were, right? And this Venus retrograde in Capricorn happens just a few hours after the full moon. So we get to reassess things. We get to take things a little bit more seriously. Maybe we're attracting people in our lives, especially women when we're dealing with Venus, that have a more mature approach to things. And we can look at these relationships and line up with them. I will say, there's a few of us who will be dealing with a female situation where we have to remove ourselves from it, where there is a bit of make or break here that can happen. And when something comes to light, we are forced to deal with it right then and there. And be careful, because power plays can happen. The shadow side comes out. I will say with Venus retrograde, we're working with a lot of light and shadow. And yes, Venus, bless her, she'll be here for quite some time. So we have time. Take your time. We get to reevaluate the way we've been structuring our life. A lot of us are going to make major changes in our lives in the next couple of months because it benefits the greater whole. Chiron also stations direct in Aries during this particular full moon, as well as Venus stationing retrograde. And that's going to remind us to look at the wounding around our self-esteem, our self-confidence, how we assert ourselves, how we represent ourselves. And so that helps us with, does this relationship line up with who I really am or reflect who I really am? And can I stay independent? We may have wounding around being too independent. Maybe we need to be more open to receive. Holiday season, I'll mention this, the ghost of Christmas past, they'll be back. And if it doesn't happen this coming week, stay tuned for the next few weeks ahead and months. Old family wounds can also come up for processing, or power dynamics come up. People projecting their baggage onto you, maybe you're projecting onto somebody else. I can tell you that this is a beautiful time. If you don't have a therapist or a counselor or a coach, sign up. Grief counseling is huge right now. We have been through the gamut in the last couple of years, between the pandemic forcing us to make changes that we maybe weren't ready to make. Maybe there's some really good things that have come out, but there's still grief. We've lost loved ones. Maybe there's loved ones who have passed by themselves because we couldn't be there with them. Maybe we're just feeling our loved ones on the other side and missing them. Many of us can be alone during this time, and it can bring up these feelings of insignificance or or lack of worth. I'm not worthy to be with somebody. Why doesn't anybody love me? I put a quote out there from Alice in Wonderland, where the White Rabbit was saying that he couldn't love her until she learned to love herself. And part of that, and this is what we're working with this Venus retrograde time, we're working with loving ourselves, because we cannot truly show up for another in a greater way until we've loved ourselves greater today than we did yesterday. Because we can truly only love another with the capacity of love that we have for ourselves. So that's the invitation. Continue to integrate the shadow. You know, I talk a lot about turning our weapons into tools, and that is not dismissing those negative feelings or those negative behaviors. We don't want to continue the negative patterns, but what we can do is learn from them. And we can see the negative emotions as signposts that are pointing us back to the questions that need to be asked. You know, if we're feeling angry, what boundary has been crossed? What boundary did I not communicate? What is it that I really need? And it gives us an invitation to come back to ourselves, check in, and then communicate it. And what better way, what better gift? You guys want to talk about the holidays and what gift to give somebody? Give them the gift of authenticity. Allow yourself to be seen. Allow yourself to process and share with someone. This is what I'm processing. This is what I felt. This is what I need. And then it's up to them what they do with it. So, all that to say, this week is a powerful week, and it is going to invite us to keep going deeper and deeper into the unconscious. And the reason that the shadow or the hidden can be so scary is simply because we don't know about it. And like I like to say, better the devil we know than the one we don't. And so don't be afraid to go into those darker places, because you are the light. We are the light. And in shining our light, the unknown becomes known. And then we get to integrate it. All right, you guys, I really hope that this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com. I look forward to connecting with you. Have a great week.